The Galactic Council had been running the galaxy for 12,000 years. 300 different alien species all worked together, sharing technology and keeping peace. They came from gentle worlds where the weather was perfect, the animals were harmless, and life was easy. War was something they read about in old history books, nothing more. Then the Void Swarm arrived and everything changed. Nobody saw them coming. One day the edge of Council space just went dark. Entire star systems stopped responding to calls. When the Council sent ships to investigate, they found nothing but empty planets stripped of all life. The swarm had eaten everything. The Council tried to fight back, but their military was more for show than actual combat. In the first real battle, the swarm destroyed an entire defense fleet in less than an hour. The alien ships were beautiful and elegant, but they were not built to survive real warfare. Ambassador Krellis stood in front of the emergency council meeting. He was a Xanthari, with 3 eyes and a body that looked like a mix between an insect and a bird. His job was usually boring diplomatic work, but today he had to tell everyone the worst news possible. The holographic display behind him showed the damage. 15 colony worlds destroyed in just 2 weeks, billions of aliens dead. The computer predictions were even worse. At this rate, the swarm would consume the entire galaxy in 6 months. "We need to contact everyone," Krellis said, his voice being translated into hundreds of different languages. "Every species we have ever met. Even the ones we usually avoid. Even the ones from Deathworlds." The room went silent. Deathworlds were terrifying places where everything tried to kill you. High gravity that would crush most aliens. Poisonous air. Deadly weather. Aggressive predators everywhere. The species that evolved on such worlds were considered dangerous and unstable. The Council had rules about staying away from them. Representative Thilla, a snake-like alien with shimmering scales, made a hissing sound of fear. "You want to contact the humans? Those creatures from that horrible water planet with crushing gravity and flesh-eating diseases?" "Earth, yes," Krellis confirmed. "I want to ask them for military help." The vote was close, but it passed. 3 days later, a council ship arrived at Earth's solar system and broadcast a message asking for help. Captain Jake Morrison was drinking coffee on his shift when the alien message came through. He commanded an orbital defense platform that circled Earth, watching for threats from space. Until today, that job had been boring. There were no aliens to defend against because everyone thought humans were alone in the universe. Jake hit the emergency button with one hand while spilling coffee with the other. "Get me Central Command right now. Tell them we just got first contact, and the aliens need help killing something." Within hours, Earth's government held an emergency meeting. President Linda Carter appeared on every screen in the world to make an announcement that would change human history. "Today we learned that we are not alone," she said, looking directly into the camera. "We also learned that our new neighbors are in trouble. An enemy threatens to destroy all intelligent life in the galaxy. They have asked humanity to help them fight." She paused to let that sink in. "Humanity has always faced impossible challenges and survived. We will do it again. I'm sending our military forces to help the Galactic Council. We go as allies, not conquerors. We go to fight for survival, theirs and ours." The Galactic Council expected maybe 1 ship, perhaps a small token force. What arrived 3 weeks later shocked them completely. 23 Earth warships appeared at the meeting point, led by a massive carrier called the UESS Titan. These ships were nothing like the elegant Council vessels. They were brutal, angular, covered in armor plating and weapons. They looked like they had been designed for one single purpose: to destroy enemies. Colonel Ryan Davis commanded the fighter wing on the Titan, 140 combat spacecraft, each one crewed by highly trained pilots. As he read through the Council's reports about the swarm, he started laughing. They have been fighting this thing for 3 weeks, and their best plan is to run away and hide? He shook his head in disbelief. "Someone get me detailed information about this swarm. I want to know everything, especially how to hurt it." Lieutenant Amy Stevens was his intelligence officer. She pulled up all the data the Council had provided. "Sir, the swarm is attracted to energy. It eats radiation and uses biological matter for raw materials. The Council's current strategy is to shut down all their power and hide in the dark. So their plan is to sit quietly and wait to die," Ryan said flatly. "Wonderful. What about weak points? How do we kill these things?" "Unknown, sir. The Council has never managed to destroy a single swarm ship. They have only survived encounters where the swarm got bored and left. Ryan smiled, but it was not a friendly smile. His pilots knew that expression meant someone was about to have a very bad day. "Well then," he said, "let us introduce these swarm creatures to humanity. I think they are going to regret coming to our galaxy." The first major battle happened at Calthera Prime, a peaceful planet with 8 billion aliens who had never known war. The swarm arrived right on schedule, thousands of bioships appearing from dark space like hungry predators. The planet's evacuation was going too slowly. At most, they might save 2 billion people before the swarm reached the surface and killed everyone else. Admiral Krelix watched from the command ship as the Council's remaining defense fleet formed a line around the planet. 40 ships against thousands of swarm vessels. It was hopeless, but maybe they could buy time for a few more transport ships to escape with refugees. Then the human fleet arrived. The UESS Titan and its battle group dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the star system, but they did not approach carefully. They did not form defensive positions. They accelerated directly toward the swarm at full combat speed, every weapon ready to fire. "This is Colonel Ryan Davis to all Council ships. A transmission broadcast on every frequency. We are going to show you how humans deal with pest problems. I suggest you stay back and watch. You might learn something." "They are insane," whispered one of the Council officers. "They are going to die in seconds." Admiral Krelix said nothing, but his claws dug into his command chair hard enough to leave permanent marks. The Titan launched all its fighters while still at long range. 140 small combat ships screamed toward the swarm like angry wasps. The swarm responded by launching thousands of drone fighters to intercept them. What happened next would be studied and analyzed for decades. The human pilots did not try to dogfight individually. They flew in tight formations, working together with incredible precision. Where the swarm had 10 drones for every human fighter, the humans used speed and coordination to turn those numbers into a disadvantage. "Delta Squadron, fly left and make them follow you into the crossfire," Ryan ordered calmly over the radio. "Echo Squadron, shoot them when they commit." Lieutenant Amy Stevens flew beside the colonel, her fighter dodging through enemy fire that would have destroyed any Council ship. Her targeting computer was screaming warnings, but she ignored them with the calm of someone who had trained for this her entire life. "Multiple targets locked. Firing," she reported, pressing her trigger. Missiles shot from her ship, each one tracking a different enemy with deadly accuracy. The swarm drones died in clusters. Their organic armor was no match for human weapons designed to punch through heavy metal at incredible speeds. But the real surprise came when the human warships entered weapons range. The UESS Defender, with Captain Jake Morrison in command, opened fire with its main railgun. Massive tungsten slugs accelerated to a fraction of light speed, crossing the distance in seconds. The lead swarm bioship, as big as a small moon, took 3 direct hits. It did not just explode. It shattered into pieces, structural failure tearing it apart from the inside out. "Target destroyed," Jake reported, already aiming at the next one. "All weapons fire freely. Let us clear a path." The Council observers watched in stunned silence as the humans tore through the swarm's front line like it was made of paper. Ships that had terrorized the galaxy for weeks died in seconds under the devastating power of human weapons. But the swarm was not stupid. It learned quickly. The drones started flying in more random patterns. The bioships released clouds of spores that interfered with targeting systems. And in the back of the swarm fleet, something enormous started moving forward, something the humans had never seen before. "I am reading a massive energy spike," Amy called out, her fighter spinning hard to avoid acid spray. "Whatever that thing is, it is huge and charging some kind of weapon." Ryan pulled up the sensor data and felt ice run through his veins. The creature was 5 times bigger than the largest bioship they had seen. Its surface glowed with organic power conduits, all of them getting brighter by the second. "That is a planet killer," he said quietly. "Admiral Krelix, if that thing fires at your planet, everyone down there dies." "We know." The alien's voice came back, filled with hopeless acceptance. "There is no way to stop it. We have failed." Ryan looked at his tactical display, running quick calculations in his head. The distance was too great. Even at full speed, they could not reach the weapon before it fired. The victory at Calthera Prime gave the galaxy hope, but everyone knew the war was far from over. The swarm was still out there, somewhere in the darkness of space. It would come back stronger, angrier, and more determined to consume everything in its path. Commander Lisa Hayes spent every waking hour in her laboratory aboard the UESS Titan. She was the chief xenobiologist for the Earth forces, which meant her job was to understand alien life forms. Right now, that meant understanding the swarm. She had collected tissue samples from destroyed bioships, and what she discovered made her unable to sleep at night. The War Council met 2 weeks after the battle. Humans and aliens filled the briefing room together. Lisa stood at the front with her research displayed on screens behind her. "These are not ships in any normal sense," she explained, pointing at microscopic images of swarm tissue. "They are grown, not built. Every bioship we have destroyed shows signs of controlled mutation and rapid adaptation. They learn from every fight we have with them, so they will return stronger than before," General Ryan said grimly. He had been promoted after the battle at Kelthera Prime and now commanded all human forces working with the Council. "Stronger and smarter," Lisa confirmed. "But there is something else. I analyzed the genetic structure of every swarm organism we collected. They all share the exact same base genetic code. They are not independent creatures. They are more like cells in a much larger organism." Senator Miles Graham, who represented Earth in the Galactic Council, leaned forward with interest. "Are you saying the entire swarm is actually one single creature?" "One hive mind at minimum," Lisa said. "Which means somewhere out there, a central intelligence is coordinating everything. A queen, a core, a brain, whatever you want to call it. If we could find that core and destroy it, we might stop the entire swarm permanently." Admiral Krelix made a sound that his translator turned into skepticism. "We have been fighting the swarm for months now across many star systems. If such a core exists, we have found no evidence of its location." "That is because you have been fighting defensively," General Ryan interrupted. "You wait for them to attack, then try to hold them off. That gives them all the advantages. We need to go on offense instead. Hunt them back to wherever they come from." "Impossible," declared High Counselor Vex, a tall alien made of living crystal who served as one of the Council's top military advisors. "The swarm appears from dark space without any warning. They have no supply lines, no forward bases that we can detect. They could be coming from anywhere in the galaxy." Lieutenant Amy Stevens had been quietly working at a computer in the corner of the room. Suddenly, she looked up with excitement in her eyes. "Actually, sir, that is not quite accurate. I have been analyzing sensor logs from every single swarm attack over the past 2 months. I found a pattern." She brought up a star map covered in red dots. Each dot marked a place where the swarm had attacked. At first, it looked completely random, scattered across hundreds of light years of space. But then Amy changed the display to show the attacks in time order, with arrows showing which direction the swarm retreated after each battle. A clear pattern emerged. Every single retreat path pointed back toward the same region of space, an area marked as unexplored on all Council maps. "The void reaches," Admiral Krelix said, his translator capturing the fear in his voice. "No one has ever returned from that region. Even our automated probe ships go silent within days of entering that area. Because the swarm probably destroyed them," Amy said bluntly. "But now we know where the swarm is coming from. That is where we need to go." "That would be suicide," High Counselor Vex stated in a flat voice. "You would be flying directly into the heart of enemy territory with no support, no intelligence about what is there, and no hope of reinforcement if things go wrong." General Ryan looked at Senator Graham, who slowly nodded his agreement. "Sounds like a typical Tuesday for humanity," Ryan said with a slight smile. "Admiral Krelix, we will need every chart and map you have of the void reaches. Amy, start planning the expedition. We are going to find this queen and kill it." 3 weeks later, a combined fleet assembled at the edge of known space. The humans contributed 15 warships, including the Titan. The Council, after much debate and argument, contributed 20 vessels. They were crewed by the few alien species brave enough or desperate enough to venture into the void reaches. It was not the massive armada anyone wanted for such a dangerous mission, but it was all they had. Commander Lisa Hayes stood in the Titan's observation deck, watching the stars shimmer as the fleet prepared to jump into dark space. Next to her, Peter Cole nervously checked his portable scanner for the 10th time in as many minutes. He was a civilian engineer who specialized in building better starship engines, not a soldier. "First time heading into uncharted space?" Lisa asked. "First time heading anywhere that might have planet-sized monsters waiting to eat us," Peter admitted honestly. I signed up to help build engines, not go monster hunting in the darkest corner of the galaxy. Everyone is scared, Lisa said quietly. The difference is whether you let that fear stop you or whether you use it to drive you forward. The jump into dark space felt normal, but emerging on the other side felt wrong somehow. The stars here were older, dimmer, and fewer. Long-range sensors detected massive debris fields stretching for light years in every direction. These were the remains of countless worlds that the swarm had consumed over thousands or maybe millions of years. "This is a graveyard," whispered Navigator Thrin, a council alien serving as liaison officer aboard the Titan. "How many civilizations died in this place?" "Too many," General Ryan replied quietly, "which is exactly why we are going to make sure no more civilizations get added to that count. All ships advance in formation. Stay alert. The swarm knows we are here by now." For 3 days they pushed deeper into the void reaches, following the faint energy signatures that Amy's computer algorithms had identified. They encountered small swarm patrols, but the bioships were disorganized and easily destroyed. Too easily. "This feels like a trap," Captain Nicole Pierce said from her command chair aboard the destroyer UESS Hammer. "Where are their main forces? Why are they not defending this region properly?" "Because we are not a threat yet," Lisa realized suddenly. "We are too small a force. The swarm does not care about us until we get close to something actually important to them." "Then let us get close and see what happens," Ryan ordered. On the 4th day, they found it. The planet was unlike anything in either council or human experience. It pulsed with sickly green light that hurt to look at. The entire surface was covered in organic matter that writhed and shifted like it was alive. Thousands of bioships orbited the planet in perfectly synchronized patterns. Massive tendrils extended from the surface up into space like the roots of some cosmic nightmare tree. "That is it." Lisa breathed in awe and horror. "That is the Queen. The entire planet is the swarm's central intelligence. It is also the most heavily defended target we have ever encountered," Amy reported, her voice tight with stress. "I am reading over 5,000 bioships in orbit, with energy signatures suggesting millions more on the surface. Maybe billions." Senator Graham, observing from the Titan's command center, looked at General Ryan with a serious expression. "Can we actually do this?" Ryan studied the tactical display for a long moment. He ran calculations in his head, considered every option he could think of, and weighed the lives of everyone in the fleet against the survival of the entire galaxy. "Yeah," he said finally, "we can do this, but it is going to cost us everything we have." He opened a communication channel to the entire fleet so everyone could hear him. "All ships. This is General Davis. I am not going to lie to you about what we are facing. Those are impossible odds. That planet down there is the source of the swarm, and destroying it is the only way to end this war permanently. But getting close enough to kill it means going through an enemy force that outnumbers us 1,000 to 1. He paused to let that information sink in. "I will not order anyone to stay for this fight. If any ship wants to pull back now, this is the time. No one will think less of you. You have already done more than anyone had the right to ask of you." Silence filled the communication channel for several long heartbeats. Then Captain Nicole Pierce's voice came through, steady and clear as steel. "The Hammer is not going anywhere, General. We came here to finish this war." One by one, every captain in the fleet confirmed they were staying. Human and alien alike, they had come too far to turn back now. They had lost too many friends to quit before the job was done. "Then let us make sure the galaxy remembers this day forever," Ryan said, his voice filled with quiet determination. "All ships attack formation. Target the planet's surface. If we can crack through that shell and reach the core inside, maybe we can kill this thing once and for all." "And if we cannot crack through?" someone asked over the channel. "Then we ram every ship we have straight down its throat and detonate our reactors inside it," Ryan replied grimly. "One way or another, that thing dies today. We make sure of it." The fleet surged forward as one unified force. The swarm rose to meet them like a tidal wave made of teeth, claws, and pure hunger. The greatest battle in galactic history was about to begin. The battle raged for hours that felt like days. The swarm threw everything it had at the fleet, trying to crush them through sheer overwhelming numbers. Bioships swarmed around the human and council vessels like angry insects, firing bioplasma and acid that ate through armor plating. Aboard the Titan, General Ryan coordinated the fleet's movements with the desperate creativity of someone who knew they were losing ground. He ordered ships to break formation to protect damaged vessels. He sent fighters on suicide runs to take out the most dangerous targets. Council ships that had never fired weapons in actual combat discovered courage they never knew they possessed. "We are losing ground fast," Amy reported from her station, her voice professionally calm despite the chaos erupting around them. 3 council ships destroyed in the last 10 minutes. 5 more are critically damaged and falling back. Our formation is collapsing. "How close are we to the planet's surface?" Ryan demanded, his eyes never leaving the tactical display. 200,000 kilometers. We need to get within 100,000 for our missiles to have any real chance of penetrating that thick atmosphere and the biological layer covering everything. Then, we keep pushing forward no matter what, Ryan said firmly. He switched to the fleet-wide communication channel. "All ships concentrate all fire on the orbital defense grid. Clear us a path to that planet." Commander Lisa Hayes worked frantically in her laboratory even as the Titan shook violently from repeated impacts. Explosions echoed through the hull. Emergency alarms blared constantly, but she ignored everything, focusing entirely on studying the planet's energy patterns through the sensors. She was looking for anything that might be a weakness they could exploit. The swarm was intelligent and adaptive, but it was still fundamentally organic, and all organic systems had vulnerabilities if you knew where to look. "I found something," she suddenly called out over the command channel, her voice filled with excitement. "There are massive energy conduits running from the planet's north and south poles toward the equator. They look like they are feeding power to the entire orbital defense system. If we could overload those conduits with enough energy, it might cause a cascading failure across the whole defensive network." "How do we overload them?" Ryan asked immediately. "Hit them with enough raw energy input that their biological systems cannot adapt fast enough to handle it. Nuclear weapons would work, but we would need to get extremely close. Really, really close." Peter Cole, who had been helping Lisa with her analysis while trying not to think about how the ship kept shaking, spoke up nervously. "I can modify the Titan's main reactor to create a massive directed energy pulse. It would burn out every system on the ship permanently, but if we got within a few thousand kilometers of one of those conduits, the pulse might work." "Do it now," Ryan ordered without hesitation. "Amy, plot us a direct course to the nearest conduit. All other ships form up around us and cover our approach with everything you have." The fleet reformed around the Titan, creating a protective shell of steel and firepower. They fought through the swarm's defenses meter by bloody meter, losing ships with each passing minute. The cost was terrible, but they kept pushing forward. The Council cruiser Steadfast took a direct hit to its reactor core. The captain's last transmission was a calm statement that would be remembered forever. "Tell our people we did not run from this fight." The ship detonated in a massive explosion that vaporized a dozen nearby swarm bioships in the blast. The destroyer, U.S. Vigilant, had its engines completely destroyed and its weapons depleted of all ammunition. Rather than retreat, the captain aimed his dying ship at a massive swarm tendril that was trying to wrap around and crush the Titan. The Vigilant rammed into the tendril at full speed. The impact severed the biological limb but destroyed the destroyer entirely. All hands were lost. Slowly, impossibly, paying the price in blood and lives, they closed the distance. 10,000 kilometers to target. Amy counted down, her voice tight. 5,000. 3,000. 2,000. "Do it right now, Peter," Ryan ordered. The engineer pushed the final sequence of commands with shaking hands. The Titan's massive fusion reactor began to overload in a carefully controlled cascade. Enormous amounts of energy poured out of the ship in a tightly focused beam, hitting the planetary conduit with the destructive force of a small star going supernova. For one long moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then the conduit began to glow brighter and brighter, until it became so bright that looking at it hurt. The biological matter surrounding it withered and died instantly, unable to cope with the massive energy overload. The glow spread rapidly along the conduit's entire length, racing toward the planet's poles like fire along a fuse. "It is working," Lisa said, hardly able to believe it. "The cascade is spreading through the whole system." On the planet's surface far below, conduits began exploding in massive plumes of organic debris that shot up into space. The bioships in orbit suddenly faltered in their movements. Their perfectly coordinated attack patterns became erratic and confused as the Queen's direct control over them began to fragment and fail. "All ships, concentrate all remaining fire on the planet's surface," Ryan commanded, his voice carrying across every channel. Target those newly exposed areas where the conduits exploded. Let us crack this thing wide open. The fleet's remaining missiles and kinetic weapons hammered the planet without mercy. Each impact drove deeper and deeper through the weakened biological shell. The swarm fought back with increasing desperation. Bioships threw themselves at the attacking fleet with suicidal fury, no longer caring about their own survival. Lieutenant Amy Stevens flew her fighter through absolute chaos. Her squadron had been reduced to just 4 craft from the original 12 that had launched. They dodged enemy fire, weaved through explosions, and returned fire with perfect coordination. Each pilot covered the other's blind spots with the instinctive trust that came from hundreds of hours training. Together. "Break left now," she called, out sharply as a spray of bioacid missed her canopy by mere meters. "Eddie, you have 3 hostiles on your tail." "I see them," her wingman replied calmly. His fighter spun through a violent maneuver that would have killed most alien pilots. Their internal organs would have been liquefied by the extreme acceleration forces. But human bodies, forged over millions of years in Earth's heavy gravity, could withstand punishment that was lethal to most other species. The swarm was learning this lesson the hard way, but numbers still mattered in any battle, and the swarm had overwhelming numbers. One by one, human fighters fell to enemy fire. Council ships died protecting their wounded allies. The fleet was being slowly ground down through pure attrition, losing the war of numbers. Then, just as hope seemed about to die completely, the planet screamed. The sound did not come through space, which cannot carry sound. Instead, it came through every radio frequency simultaneously. A psychic shriek of pure pain and rage that made every organic being within range clutch their heads in agony. The bioships in orbit suddenly stopped moving entirely, frozen in place like puppets with cut strings. "The Queen," Lisa gasped, struggling to think through the psychic noise. "We heard it badly. We actually managed to hurt it." "Then let us finish what we started," Ryan growled through gritted teeth. "All remaining ships full assault now. Hit that planet with absolutely everything we have left." The fleet surged forward one final time. Missiles, railgun slugs, plasma bolts, laser beams, and every other weapon in the human and council arsenals slammed into the planet's damaged surface. The biological shell cracked wider, then shattered completely in places, revealing a pulsing core of living tissue beneath the armor. "That is it," Lisa confirmed, staring at her scanner readouts. "That is the Queen's central nervous system, her brain. If we destroy that core, the entire swarm network across the galaxy collapses instantly." Ryan looked at the tactical display with grim understanding. They had 9 ships left in fighting condition. The swarm, even badly damaged, still had hundreds of bioships in orbit and thousands more crawling across the planet's tortured surface like maggots. "This is it," he said quietly, opening a channel so the entire fleet could hear his words. "This is the moment we have been fighting toward. That core down there is the only thing keeping the swarm alive. Destroy it and we end this war forever. But we are not going to survive the final approach. The swarm will throw everything it has left at us to protect its queen." He paused, thinking of Jake Morrison, who had sacrificed himself at Kelthera Prime. He thought of all the others who had already given everything they had. "It has been an honor serving with all of you, both human and council alike. You have shown courage that will be remembered for as long as the galaxy endures. Now let us show this monster what happens when it threatens our galaxy." The 9 remaining ships, battered almost beyond recognition and barely functional, dove toward the planet's exposed core. The swarm rose to meet them in a final desperate defense, throwing every bioship it had left into the battle. Captain Nicole Pierce watched her ship's integrity alarms scream increasingly urgent warnings. The hammer was pushing through the planet's atmosphere now. Hull plates were melting from the extreme friction and constant enemy fire. Amy Stevens was the last fighter pilot still alive. Her small craft trailed smoke and fire from a dozen holes in its hull. Alarms screamed at her from every direction, warning her that critical systems were failing. She looked down at the exposed core of the Queen below, then glanced at the small picture of her family that she kept taped to her control panel. Her mother's smiling face looked back at her from the photograph, her father with his arm around her little brother. They had taken that picture at the beach 2 years ago, back when humanity still thought they were alone in the universe. "Sorry, Mom," Amy whispered, her hand steady on the control stick despite everything. "Tell everyone I love them very much." Her fighter struck the exact center of the Queen's core at maximum velocity. The detonation was small compared to the massive size of the planet beneath her, but it was enough. The Queen's death scream echoed across every radio frequency in the entire galaxy simultaneously. It was a sound of pure agony mixed with complete disbelief that something so ancient and powerful could actually die. All across Council space, thousands of light years away, bioships suddenly went dark and lifeless. Their organic pilots died instantly as the central intelligence controlling them ceased to exist. The swarm, the ancient terror that had consumed countless civilizations over millions of years, fell completely silent. Aboard the crippled remains of the Titan, General Ryan Davis slowly pulled himself up from his command chair. He was bleeding from at least a dozen different wounds. The ship was dying around him, sparks falling from broken conduits and fires burning in 3 different sections. But through the cracked view screen, he could see the planet below beginning to collapse inward. Its biological structure was unable to sustain itself without the Queen's constant guidance and control. Did we actually win? Peter Cole asked weakly from where he lay pinned under fallen debris. Blood ran down the side of his face from a deep cut on his forehead. Yeah, Ryan replied, and then he started to laugh despite the terrible pain. Yeah, we actually won. Lisa Hayes was working at a half-destroyed console nearby, her fingers flying across the controls even though she could barely stand. The planet is experiencing total systemic failure, she reported, her scientist's mind still working even in the midst of everything. Without the Queen's intelligence directing it, the entire organic structure is breaking down at the cellular level. It will be completely dead within the hour. The few council ships that had survived the final battle approached the Titan slowly. Their crews were silent with a mixture of awe, grief, and something close to reverence. They had witnessed something that would fundamentally reshape their understanding of courage, sacrifice, and what it meant to fight for survival. Admiral Krelix's voice came over the damaged communication system, his translator struggling to properly convey the overwhelming emotion in his words. General Davis, the swarm is gone. Completely gone. All across the galaxy, every single bioship has ceased functioning. You did it. You actually saved us all. Not just us, Ryan said firmly, thinking of Jake Morrison, Amy Stevens, Nicole Pierce, and all the countless others who would never see home again. They did it. Every single person who came on this mission knowing they probably would not survive. Human and alien alike, they are the real heroes of this story. Then let their names be remembered forever across every world. Krelix replied solemnly. And let the galaxy never forget the day that the Deathworlders saved us all from extinction. The journey back to Council space took 2 weeks. The surviving ships limped home at reduced speed because their engines were barely functional. Of the 35 ships that had entered the void reaches, only 7 returned. 4 human vessels and 3 council ships, all of them heavily damaged and held together mostly by emergency repairs and desperate hope. The casualties were staggering to contemplate. Over 8,000 humans had died in the mission. Nearly 12,000 council personnel from various species had given their lives, but they had saved trillions. Every living being in the galaxy owed their continued existence to those who had sacrificed everything in the void reaches. When the fleet finally emerged at the edge of council space, they found themselves facing an unexpected sight. Hundreds of ships waited there to greet them. Not warships this time, but civilian vessels from dozens of different species. News of the victory had spread across the galaxy faster than the returning fleet could travel. Captain Nicole Pierce, who had somehow survived when her ship the Hammer had crashed into the Queen's core, stood on her battered bridge and watched through the view screen with tears running down her face. Every single civilian ship was broadcasting the same message in hundreds of different languages. Welcome home, heroes. Thank you for our lives. The fleet was escorted to Kelthera Prime, the planet that Jake Morrison had saved months earlier. The Council had chosen it as the site for a special ceremony. As the damaged ships entered orbit, millions of Keltherans gathered in their capital city to watch and pay their respects. General Ryan Davis stood in the medical bay of the Titan, finally allowing doctors to treat his injuries now that they were safe. He watched the planet below through a small window, hardly able to believe they had actually survived. You should be proud, Lisa said from the bed next to his. She was recovering from a broken arm and severe burns. You led the mission that saved the galaxy. I just gave orders, Ryan replied quietly. They are the ones who carried them out. They are the ones who deserve the pride and recognition. They will get it, Lisa assured him. The entire galaxy knows what happened out there. They know what humanity did, what we all did together. Peter Cole was in the bed on Ryan's other side, his leg in a cast and his head wrapped in bandages. "What happens now?" he asked. "The war is over. The swarm is dead. Do we just go home and pretend this never happened?" "I do not think the galaxy is going to let us pretend anything," Ryan said with a slight smile. "Everything has changed, for humanity and for the Council both." 3 days later, the ceremony took place in the Grand Hall of the Galactic Council. It was a massive structure that could hold representatives from all 300 member species, with room for thousands of observers. Today it was filled beyond capacity. Every species wanted to witness this historic moment. The surviving members of the expedition stood together in a place of honor at the center of the hall. Humans and aliens side by side, united by what they had endured together. Many were still bandaged and injured, but they stood straight and proud. Senator Miles Graham represented Earth in the formal proceedings. He stood next to Admiral Krellix, who had become an unexpected friend during the long months of war. High Counselor Vex, the towering crystalline being, approached them carrying something wrapped in formal ceremonial cloth. The hall fell completely silent. Even the slightest whisper ceased. For 12,000 cycles, the Galactic Council has maintained peace through careful diplomacy and the avoidance of all conflict, Vex began, his voice resonating through the chamber. "We built our civilization on the principle that violence was never the answer, that any problem could be solved through negotiation and mutual understanding." He paused, his crystalline form shifting colors in a way that conveyed deep emotion. "We were wrong, terribly fatally wrong. When the swarm came, our principles meant nothing against an enemy that knew only hunger. Our diplomacy failed completely. We faced total extinction and we were helpless to prevent it." Vex turned to face the human delegation directly. "Then you arrived. Humans from Earth. A death world we had marked as too dangerous and too unstable to ever join our council. You still remembered how to fight when fighting became necessary. You possessed a quality that we had carefully bred out of ourselves over thousands of years of peace. The willingness to stand against impossible darkness even when victory seemed completely impossible." Admiral Krellix stepped forward and carefully unwrapped the ceremonial cloth. Inside was a metal unlike anything the humans had ever seen. It seemed to be made of living crystal that pulsed with soft inner light. "This is the Star of Valor," Krellix explained, his 3 eyes focused on General Ryan. "It is the highest honor our civilization can possibly bestow on anyone. In 12,000 years of Council history, it has been awarded only 12 times, and only to individuals who showed courage beyond all reasonable measure." He knelt before Ryan, an act of profound respect in Council culture that made thousands of aliens gasp in surprise. "General Ryan Davis, in the name of the Galactic Council and 300 species who owe you their continued existence, I present you with the Star of Valor. But this award is not for you alone. It is for all of humanity, and for every being, human and alien alike, who fought in the void reaches." Ryan accepted the medal with shaking hands, but his expression was somber rather than joyful. "With deep respect, Admiral, this honor truly belongs to those who did not make it back. Captain Jake Morrison, who gave his life at Kelthera Prime, Lieutenant Amy Stevens, who struck the final blow against the Queen, Captain Nicole Pierce and the crew of the Hammer, and thousands of others whose names deserve to be spoken and remembered. They will be remembered," Vex promised solemnly. "We are constructing a memorial on Kelthera Prime." 6 months had passed since the fall of the swarm. The galaxy was still recovering, still processing what had happened, still learning to live in a universe where the ancient threat no longer existed. The memorial on Kelthera Prime was finally complete. It stood in the center of the capital city, a massive structure of polished stone that reached toward the sky like a prayer. Carved into its surface were 20,000 names. Every human and alien who had died fighting the swarm, from the first battles at the border worlds to the final assault in the void reaches. General Ryan Davis stood before the memorial wall, his hand resting gently on the carved letters that spelled out Amy Stevens. Next to her name was Jake Morrison. Below them were the names of Nicole Pierce's entire crew. Thousands upon thousands of names, each one representing a life cut short, a family left grieving, a future that would never be. "I brought you something," a voice said behind him. Ryan turned to see a young woman, barely 20 years old, with tears streaming down her face. She held a small bundle of earth flowers, somehow kept fresh during the long journey from home. "I am Amy's younger brother, Christopher," she said, her voice breaking slightly. "I wanted to see where my sister's name was written. To tell her I miss her." Ryan felt his throat tighten with emotion. "Your sister was the bravest person I ever knew. She saved the entire galaxy with her courage." "She was supposed to come home," Christopher said simply. "She promised she would come back and teach me how to fly. She always kept her promises before. She kept this one too," Ryan said gently. "She promised to protect you, to protect Earth, to protect everyone. She did that. The cost was just higher than anyone wanted to pay." Christopher placed the flowers at the base of the memorial beneath his sister's name. Other people had left flowers there too. Hundreds of them, people from dozens of different species, all coming to honor those who had saved them. "Does it ever get easier?" Christopher asked quietly. "Missing her? No," Ryan admitted honestly. "But you learn to carry it, and you make sure their sacrifice means something." Across the city in the new Galactic Council building, something historic was happening. For the first time in 12,000 years, the council was completely restructuring how it operated. Senator Miles Graham sat in Earth's designated seat, surrounded by representatives from 300 other species. The chamber looked the same as it always had, but everything else had changed fundamentally. High Counselor Vex stood at the center podium, his crystalline form reflecting the lights and patterns that conveyed serious purpose. "The Swarm War has taught us painful but necessary lessons. We believed that avoiding conflict would keep us safe. We were wrong. We believed that military strength was unnecessary in a civilized galaxy. We were wrong about that too." He gestured to a holographic display that showed the new proposals. "The Council is establishing a permanent joint defense force, ships and personnel from every member species, trained together and ready to respond to any future threats. This force will be led jointly by Council and human commanders. We are also establishing the Academy of Strategic Defense on Kelthera Prime," Vex continued. "Here, officers from all species will learn from each other. Council species will learn human tactics and adaptability. Humans will learn Council technology and cooperation. Together, we will be stronger than we ever were apart." Admiral Krellix, who now served as the Council's Chief of Military Operations, spoke next. "We must also address the question of death worlds. For too long, we avoided species from harsh planets out of prejudice and fear. The humans have shown us that those who grow up facing constant challenges develop qualities that paradise dwellers often lack. Resilience, creativity, determination, courage." He pulled up a star map showing dozens of worlds marked in red. "These are death worlds with intelligent species that we have previously avoided contact with. I propose we reach out to them. Not to recruit soldiers, but to offer friendship and partnership. To learn from them as we have learned from humanity." The vote passed with overwhelming support. The galaxy was changing, learning from its mistakes, becoming something new. On Earth, President Linda Carter stood in the rebuilt Central Command facility, watching the news broadcasts from across the galaxy. Every major network was covering the Council's decisions. The commentary was universally positive. "Madam President, you have an incoming call from the lunar colony," her aide informed her. The screen switched to show Commander Peter Cole, who had chosen to stay in space after recovering from his injuries. He now oversaw the construction of Earth's first true deep space shipyard in orbit around the moon. "Madam President, I wanted to give you a progress update," Peter said, his face showing a smile of genuine pride. "The shipyard is ahead of schedule. We will have the first Earth Council hybrid warship ready for testing in 3 months. She will be called the UESS Morrison in honor of Captain Jake." "That is wonderful news, Commander," Linda replied warmly. "Jake would have been proud." "We are also making progress on the civilian front," Peter added. "The Council has shared their terraforming technology with us. Mars could be habitable within 50 years. We are also identifying suitable colony worlds in nearby systems." Linda nodded, feeling hope for the future for the first time in months. "Humanity is entering a new age, Commander. We are no longer alone in the universe, and we have proven we belong among the stars." Back on Kelthera Prime, Commander Lisa Hayes was teaching at the new Academy of Strategic Defense. Her classroom was filled with students from 20 different species, all of them eager to learn from the human who had helped discover the swarm's weakness. "Understanding your enemy is just as important as having superior weapons," she explained. using a holographic display to show swarm biology. The swarm seemed invincible because we did not understand how it functioned. Once we understood it was a hive mind with a central intelligence, we could develop a strategy to defeat it. A young Zenthari student raised one of her multiple arms. Professor Hayes, how did you know where to look for weaknesses? The council studied the swarm for months and found nothing. Because I am a Deathworlder, Lisa said simply. I grew up on a planet where everything is trying to kill you. Bacteria, viruses, predators, weather. Even the food can be poisonous if prepared incorrectly. Humans learn from childhood to study threats carefully, to find their weaknesses, to adapt our strategies. It is how we survived on Earth for millions of years. She looked around the classroom at all the different species represented. But I also learned that different perspectives matter. The council provided the technology and databases I needed. Engineer Cole provided the solution for overloading the conduits. Admiral Krellix provided the ships. We succeeded because we worked together, combining our different strengths. Another student, a young human from Earth, asked a question. Do you think there are other threats out there? Other things like the swarm? Lisa considered her answer carefully. Probably yes. The galaxy is vast and mostly unexplored. But now we know we can face those threats together. We are no longer hundreds of separate species hiding on our own worlds. We are one unified civilization that has learned to fight when fighting becomes necessary. That evening, the survivors of the Void Reaches mission gathered together for a private memorial service. They met in a small garden near the memorial, away from the crowds and cameras. Just the people who had been there, who understood what they had all experienced. General Ryan stood before the group, looking at the faces of those who had survived. Humans and aliens together, bound by shared trauma and shared triumph. We gather here to remember those who did not come home. Ryan began, his voice steady but filled with emotion. We remember their courage. We remember their sacrifice. We remember that they gave everything so that others could live. He paused, pulling out a small piece of paper. I received a letter today from Amy Stevens' mother. She wanted me to read part of it to you. Ryan unfolded the letter and began to read. Dear General Davis, thank you for your kind words about my daughter. I will not lie and say I am not angry that she was taken from us. I am furious at the universe for stealing her away. But I am also proud beyond words. My little girl saved the galaxy. How many mothers can say that about their children? She died a hero, and I will spend the rest of my life making sure people remember her name. Several people in the group were crying now, but they were not tears of pure sadness. They were mixed with pride and love and gratitude. We carry them forward, Ryan continued. Every day we live, every action we take, every kindness we show, we do it in their memory. They live on through us, through the children who will be born because of what they did, through the civilizations that will flourish because the swarm is gone. Lisa stood up next, holding a candle. I propose we make this an annual tradition. Every year on this date, we gather here to remember, to speak their names, to tell their stories, to make sure that as long as any of us live, they are never forgotten. One by one, each survivor stood and lit a candle from Lisa's flame. Human and alien alike, they formed a circle of light in the growing darkness. Admiral Krellix spoke in his native language, his translator converting the words. In my culture, we believe that the dead watch over us from the stars. Tonight I feel them watching,